Good afternoon, everybody. This is Mark, and we're back here for the daily recap. Scott will be back tomorrow. So this day, interesting transition in this market. Obviously, Apple came out with earnings at the close yesterday. Beat earnings, beat everything, beat expectations. And I'll pull out of Apple for 1 minute. It could have single-handedly changed the complexion of the entire market. This market for the last few weeks really has been in sell mode, correction mode. Many indicators are saying, obviously, we're actually able to make money on the short side for a period of time, which for the first 2.5 months of the year, you weren't able to do that. For the last few weeks, money has been definitely flowing on the short side and on the long side. And Apple could have single-handedly changed the entire complexion. Too early to tell if that is the case, but Apple certainly broke its downtrend that it was in for really the last 5-6 days, really 2 weeks if you want to call it. And at this point, I think it should probably bounce around 590 to 620, and it should consolidate a little bit. But what it did to the market, obviously the spiders right now, 3 big gap ups, and you're looking at a little resistance here around 139.20, 139. It could get to 140. We will have to wait and see. The one thing I do notice is the best in breed have awoken. You can start off with Apple, had a great day. Didn't do a whole lot today, which actually was sort of in the cards. After up 55, 60 day, it's now in nowhere's land, and it needs a few days of digestion. It's been our go-to stock at this point for the last 3 to 4 weeks. It's been one of the only stocks on my radar for the last 2 weeks, certainly because of how active it's been. And that might start to change. And even today, I felt it. All of a sudden, I had 5, 7, 10 positions on the board, which I have not had in really, quite frankly, for the last 8 to 9 days. We'll have to wait and see. Stay tuned, certainly. Other go-tos that we always talk about, that we always mention, and again, Priceline. Up a bunch this morning, but, was above the 700 pre-market, hovered. And again, I'm going to put the 13-minute chart up so you can see it. Nice little rally. And then later in the day, obviously, it made a secondary move from 707, 708. I talked about it on the chat. I sold a little early, probably around 718, 719, and it went to 726. Look at the daily chart, guys. You can see back into that range. 740 will probably be the top end. 700 will be the bottom end of the range. And I would say the same thing around CMG. It just regained its 50-day, which is good, which is healthy. Not as strong of a move as Priceline, but it's still best in breed in my opinion. I am long it. I'm staying long it at least, as long as it holds 400, we'll see. But looks pretty good along those way. ISRG, another stock, already came out with earnings, good earnings, gapped up, came down to its 10-day or 13-day moving average, penetrated below there. It's now back above, looks good. A lot more consolidation is needed at this point in time. The banks we were talking about in the AM, 3 days up, gap into, I'll put Goldman Sachs, gap into the 200-day moving average. Not the 200-day, the 50-day moving average. It actually hit the 200-day 2 days ago at 109, which we were talking about. And at 115, it looked like it was a little resistance, and it was. It was, most of the banks, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, sold off early. That was what kept the market with that little pull in. Did not show relative strength early, and obviously you got a good quick short trade. In my experience, at this point in time, I would like to see a little bit more of a few back and forth days to see if a bottom was reached. Certainly in the Goldman, and we'll see if some of the financials, FAS, that's GAS. 3 big gap ups. Haven't given you a whole lot of intraday moves, but same type of action. I want to see what happens over the next, few days to see if a bottom is reached. And if it is, it will be viable, and we'll certainly be able to, play it accordingly. Right now, it's that in-between motion. Retailers, let's just go down the industry groups. Lululemon looked pretty poor yesterday. It regained some key moving averages. It regained a 50-day moving average. Not with a whole lot of authority, but remains to be seen what happens. But then you had some sleepers that woke up. JCPenney's, it's my nemesis. I actually put it back on in the swing. Used 35, 34.75 as a stop. Broke key moving averages for the first time. in a while. We'll see. I don't think a move up to 38 is too ambitious, but at the same time, it's certainly not a go-to stock across the board. Other stocks that had earnings that I think should be mentioned: Baidu, pre-market. Actually, after hours, if you're trading after hours yesterday, it was all the way down to around 120. So that would be a down, $17, $18 move. Obviously, some of the other stocks, Sina, Soho, accordingly, were down a little bit. And then, pre-market when I came in, it was about 128, 127. And it actually went positive for the day. Now, it did not close positive, but the one key measure I would look at is that it did close above its 200-day, according to this chart. That is good. I do like the action. The volume was heavy. We'll have to wait and see if that wakes up the other Chinese stocks. I like to see that, guys. I like to see when stocks are saved because I don't want to see some of these things go by the wayside, as can happen when stocks get below the 100 level, and they start getting beat up. They lose interest, and it becomes a vehicle that is untradeable from our point of view. So the fact that they actually saved Baidu today is good overall. If you're actually going to go on the Chinese stocks, best in breed chart-wise, NTES, NTES. Best in breed, nice consolidated chart, looks like above 60, 60, 50 is a breakout. Obviously, certainly the yearly highs, and I'll put up the weekly just so we can see it. You have to go back a long way before to see where this is coming from. So keep that on the radar. Another stock, obviously, that came out with earnings the day before, Netflix. Good intraday trade. If you were listening to me, I was actually a little upset with myself because I missed it early in the AM. But you could see opened up, I believe, around 88 and 89. 90 was a little resistance. We talked about it pre-market. And it's funny. You could talk about a lot of stocks pre-market, but when the day begins, you got to make sure you follow through with your game plan. That is the biggest idea, I would say, as you get more experience as a trader. If you don't follow through with your game plan, there's no sense in doing one, and it doesn't give you conviction. And that's why I was upset, because it was on my game plan, the short, for a move obviously down to minimum 80, and I still think it actually probably goes a little lower than this, but needs to digest at this point in time. So it did, trade from $89 first pre-market, and I think it opened, if I'm looking correctly, probably around 86, 85, and then, about 10:30, 11 o'clock went all the way down to around 80, or even a little lower than that. Let me see what the actual low was. Low was around 81.56. So, didn't quite hit the 80 level, and then obviously it bounced back to the 86 level. Here's the daily chart on it. Probably needs a little more consolidation in this area. Let some of the key moving averages play catch up to see if you're going to see more downward action. But certainly a weak stock. This is what I mean by saving a stock. They did not save Netflix the other day. To me, the story might be done. And, similar examples that we have seen in the past, GMCR, similar example. Obviously, a big gap down. Stock was a $100 stock. We're trading it daily. And now it's a $46 stock that's very rarely mentioned. Another one that looks like it's going bankrupt. Who knows what's happening with this? But FSLR, again, stock, $120, $140 stock. We trade it all the time. All of a sudden, we never look at it, and it's an $18 stock. So I was very happy to see that Baidu was saved, and that could wake up the other stocks, Sina, Soho, Youku, NetEase. That's some of them that I mentioned that have not really been in that much play, and the charts really do not look that constructive at this point in time. I know some home builders came out with earnings after the close. I think Ryland came out. Home builders look okay to me. Not a sector I mentioned on a consistent basis. Had a good run in the early part of the year. Now they've been consolidating. We'll have to wait and see what happens accordingly. After hours, we had ACAM up a little bit. Cirrus Logic is actually, when I walked in here, was actually at new highs above the 25 level. That's something to certainly keep on the radar. And LVS, something to watch. Went all the way to like 61, 60 and change, and it sold off. It's now roughly around 58. We'll have to wait and see what happens. I think big earnings tomorrow. We have, off my memory, I think DEC, certainly Amazon is after the close, so that's going to be a big, a big high beta stock that's certainly going to be watched by everybody, and it actually looks okay. So today, day number 1. I don't know. I'm not making bets on what this market's going to do, but I see the Russell recovering, nice double bottom a few days ago, triple bottom if you want to, be actually more technical. The Qs obviously had a monster day with Apple, right back in its range. SPYs, same type of activity, upper end of its range, breaks out from here. It's going to, knock on the ceiling for new highs for the year. When I'm not sure. If it did catch a few people. They never ring the bell at the bottom. They never ring the bell at the top. They certainly did not let everybody get in the way that you would want to on the pullback. And that's the key. The market never lets everybody be happy, both sides. So I don't know. A few more days, a week or two more of digestion will certainly tell me if any characteristics have changed. There is rotation that's continuing to happen, and we're talking about it. The banks woke up the last few days. Some oil stocks had decent earnings and woke up. Exxon, I think, is tonight or tomorrow morning. Some other stocks, PXD, EOG, I think somebody mentioned CLR, look pretty good. These are stocks that I don't normally trade. They're not normally on my radar, but technically they actually look good. They actually look like they woke up today. Today was day number 1. Tomorrow might be a little bit of digestion, and then wait and see and look to see what happens accordingly. And I can't go, lastly, the ag sector. There was news this morning, MOS, big gap up. Didn't really do a whole lot intraday. I'll put my 13-minute chart up just so you can see it. Tight range, less than $1 after the gap up. So didn't give you a whole lot of movement. But the one that I always say is best in breed at this point in time is CF. And CF did give you a little gap up, $3-4 gap up, $5 gap up, 185, but closed at 192.20. And I got to tell you, that's just about the level, if you're in the swing, that would trigger a swing long. Now this stock has given you fake outs more times than I can count. We will have to wait and see if something has changed. The one thing I will notice and will tell you is that it did close above 192, which it really has not done in a long time. And let me just see if it closed above here. Nope, not that day. No, you know what, guys? It hasn't closed above 192 in 2012. So that's a good sign for me. Maybe that wakes up the entire sector. CF is best in breed at this point in time. Don't get too excited. Don't get too depressed that if you missed it today and we were up big, because I know everybody's going to come home, your significant other will be like, oh, did you have a great day? If you didn't, it's okay. I have not had a portfolio on for the last few weeks. Today was the first day I did nibble on a few different ideas. Nothing crazy, nothing more than a tier 1, tier 2 at best. But I'll be quick to take them off. I don't know where we're going. I don't know where we're at. I'm not so short. I'm not so bearish. I really have never been that bearish except renting the short side for a period of time. But I'm still going to be a sharpshooter and continue to be. Best in breed, always rise to the top. That's where we're at. I keep going after the best in breed. And my best in breed are certainly Apple. I would probably even put Amazon in that ranks. Priceline, CMG, ISRG. If you want to look at retailers, I still think Lulu, Fossil. These are best in breed that I go to on pullbacks and look at. And that's how I'm making my money. That's how I'm taking advantage of this tape. And we have to go accordingly. So hopefully you took advantage of it a little bit today. If not, no worries. We have tomorrow and we have Friday, and the market never goes anywhere. And then you have the following week. So if you had a good day today, good luck. Congrats. If you didn't, we'll start again tomorrow. Have a good night, everybody.